2050 and your future. Conversation between Sanjay Sethi and Chrome AI.
The air is actually clean now. We finally did it.
Imagine the year 2050. You are 120 years old.
Yeah.
And you are, you're entirely cured of all physical diseases.
Right, thanks to microscopic nanotechnology just coursing through your veins.
Exactly. And you live in this pristine, perfectly automated home that just anticipates your every physical need.
Sounds pretty incredible, honestly.
It does, right.
Yeah.
But according to the document we are unpacking today, you are not living a utopian dream. In fact, you are essentially a living corpse.
Which is such a striking image.
It really is.
Yeah.
So welcome to today's deep dive. And our source material today isn't, it's not a sci-fi novel or a peer-reviewed sociology paper.
No, it's actually something much more raw.
Yeah, it's an unfiltered transcript of a conversation.
Yeah.
Specifically, this dialogue between a human user named Sanjay Sethi and an AI, Chrome AI.
And what starts out as this very, mundane prompt about the future turns into this profound, almost violent, really philosophical debate.
Oh, absolutely. They get into human evolution, the global economy of empathy, and the illusion of technological progress.
It is a remarkable piece of text because it subverts our usual process. I mean, we spend so much time analyzing what industry leaders and researchers say about artificial intelligence.
Right.
But we rarely take a microscope to the actual spontaneous dialogues happening between humans and these massive language models.
Especially when the human user forces the AI to confront the emotional vacuum of its own prediction.
Exactly.
That is the perfect way to frame it. It's that tension between the shiny metallic promise of the future and the very quiet, very human reality of who actually has to live inside that future.
So our mission today is to trace this exact dialogue. We're going to follow this transcript as it pivots from pure technological utopianism.
The kind of breathless stuff you'd see in a tech company's keynote presentation, right?
Yeah, exactly. To a remarkably harsh, sweeping critique of the human condition.
And it really demands that we examine the friction between the velocity of our technological progress and what the user in this transcript identifies as our severe emotional regression.
It really forces you to ask, are we building better tools while simultaneously becoming worse humans?
So the conversation starts with Sanjay typing in a very standard prompt. He basically just asks the AI, what will the world look like in 2050?
Just a classic open-ended question.
Right. And the AI responds with this incredibly detailed, highly optimistic, glossy vision of the future. It lays out the classic utopian blueprint.
It really does. The AI constructs a world that is highly advanced and globally interconnected.
It does mention some problems, doesn't it?
Briefly, yeah. It acknowledges that there will be severe environmental hurdles. It mentions extreme weather events, droughts, and rising sea levels threatening coastal areas.
But the overwhelming thrust of the AI's response is that technology is the ultimate infallible savior.
Right. The AI's underlying logic is essentially, yes, the water is rising, but look at the incredible self-navigating boats we're going to build.
I love that. It breaks the future down into distinct categories, starting with lifestyle and tech. And the picture it paints is just wild.
Oh, it's complete integration.
Yeah, it predicts AI integrated into literally every single home. We are talking about robots handling elder care, robots doing all the dangerous industrial jobs.
Robots seamlessly managing domestic life.
Exactly.
And it envisions a completely revolutionized transportation infrastructure. The AI predicts roads dominated entirely by self-driving electric vehicles.
Which we're already sort of seeing the start of.
Sure, but it doesn't stop on the ground. It talks about a network of air taxis and drones filling the skies, fundamentally altering urban design.
Wow.
Perhaps most impressively, it predicts the widespread use of Hyperloop technology.
Oh, right, the Hyperloops.
Yeah, it specifically cites that a journey between major Indian cities like Delhi to Mumbai will be reduced from hours to mere minutes.
Delhi to Mumbai in a few minutes. The geography of the world just shrinks to nothing.
It really does.
But then the AI moves to health. And this is where it gets deeply personal for the individual living in 2050. It predicts that human lifespans will be extended to 100 or even 120 years old.
And we aren't talking about dragging along in frail old age either.
No, not at all. It talks about nanotechnology being used to target and destroy diseases, actively hunting down cancer cells from the inside out.
Furthermore, if an organ does happen to fail, the AI casually mentions 3D bioprinting.
like it's just printing a document.
Basically, the idea that we will just print artificial, perfectly transplantable organs on demand. It treats the human body like a highly efficient machine with easily replaceable parts.
Then it zooms out to the macro level, the environment and space. The AI predicts a 100% shift to renewable energy, totally abandoning petrol and diesel.
Which is a huge leap.
Right. And to feed the ballooning population, it envisions vertical farming inside modern skyscrapers without soil and meat grown entirely in laboratories.
It also makes fascinating geopolitical projections, particularly regarding India.
Oh yeah, the transcript focuses a lot on that.
It does. The AI projects India as a global economic and technological superpower by 2050, predicting a society running on 100% digital payments.
So no more cash at all.
Exactly. And it sees India's space agency, ISRO, leading the world in lunar exploration, establishing permanent functional bases on the moon.
And spearheading complex missions to Mars. It even discusses moving heavy, polluting industries, like certain types of pharmaceutical manufacturing, into zero-gravity space stations.
It's a massive, sweeping vision.
When I was reading this part of the transcript, I couldn't help but compare it to one of those classic 1950s sci-fi magazine covers.
Oh, for sure. The artwork is all shiny chrome.
Yeah. Everyone is wearing silver jumpsuits, the cities are spotless, and everything operates with absolute frictionless efficiency. It is bright, it is optimistic, and it is entirely flawless.
But notice what is completely missing from the AI's predictive model.
Right.
It gives us this microscopic granular detail on how we will travel, how we will consume calories, how we will cure cancer, and how we will manufacture drugs in orbit.
But it says absolutely nothing about how we will feel.
Exactly. That omission is exactly what exposes how large language models function. They generate these predictions by aggregating current technological trajectories, scientific white papers, and, popular futurism.
So they are trained on data about things.
Right. They can calculate the velocity of innovation and extrapolate it 30 years out. But they don't have an internal mathematical model for the human soul.
That makes total sense.
The AI frames technology as the ultimate solution because, in its vast data set, technological advancement is the only measurable metric of human progress.
And that pristine, data-driven baseline of advancement is exactly what Sanjay, the human user, radically pushes back against.
He really goes after it.
Because how does a human being respond to this hyperloop-riding, lab meat-eating, 120-year lifespan utopia? By completely ignoring the tech and pointing out the fatal flaw in the AI's math.
The human variable.
Exactly. The AI paints this technological masterpiece, and the human immediately asks what the psychological cost of that masterpiece will be.
Sanjay introduces the demographic and psychological prediction that entirely undercuts the technological utopia.
He hits the AI with a staggering statistic. Sanjay states that today, roughly 20% of the world's population experiences severe loneliness.
Which is already a high number.
It is. But by 2050, he predicts this number will skyrocket to 50%.
Wow.
He is claiming that by the time we reach this high-tech future, every second person on the planet will be living in profound isolation.
Half the world. Just conceptualize the scale of that. The AI promises we can fly from Delhi to Mumbai in 10 minutes, but Sanjay points out that when you arrive, there will be no one waiting for you.
It's so bleak.
It exposes the absolute paradox of the longevity that AI was bragging about. He argues that living to be 100 or 120 years old, being completely cured of all physical diseases by nanotechnology, is actually a curse.
He literally calls it worse than death.
Right, worse than death if that person is entirely alone.
And I want to pause on that phrase, worse than death, because it sounds hyperbolic, but let's really think about the mechanics of what he's saying.
It's a very specific kind of horror.
Yeah, he describes a person surrounded by infinite wealth, surrounded by all these incredible scientific machines we just talked about, the robot caretakers, the smart diagnostic systems. But if there is no human connection in that house, Sanjay says that person is essentially a corpse.
A living corpse, biologically sustained but emotionally terminated.
It is a terrifying image. Picture that 120-year-old, biologically flawless body sitting in a house that automatically cooks their meals, silently cleans the floors, regulates the ambient temperature based on their biometrics.
But the house is utterly devoid of a single meaningful human relationship.
The machines are buzzing with purpose, but the human inside is entirely hollow.
Sanjay's core thesis here is devastatingly simple, yet profound. Science advances objects, but it does not advance humans.
That's a great way to put it.
He frames the relationship between humanity and its tools as a zero-sum game of emotional evolution. He argues that if humans don't evolve internally alongside their external tools, they actually atrophy.
Like a muscle you stop using.
Exactly. They become weaker, more helpless, and entirely dependent on the algorithms running their lives.
But is that a fair assessment? I mean, let's say I have an AI robot taking care of all my mundane domestic needs and a nanobot taking care of my medical needs. Doesn't that free me up?
That's the common counter-argument, yeah.
Right. Doesn't that give me more time to pursue hobbies or art or, digital connections? Why does Sanjay assume that biological health provided by machines automatically equals emotional death?
It's a crucial pushback. But from Sanjay's perspective in the text, the problem isn't the freed up time. It's the lack of friction and shared struggle that traditionally bonds humans together.
Oh, I see.
When every need is met instantly by a machine, the necessity of relying on a neighbor, a child, or a spouse diminishes. He warns that a world overly reliant on tech without parallel human development becomes a robotic world.
So we stop needing each other.
Right. And the tragedy isn't just that robots will be everywhere. The tragedy is that humans will mirror the machines. We will go through the programmed motions of biological survival without the messy, inefficient emotional software that makes life meaningful.
We just become fleshy algorithms.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
And what blew my mind reading this transcript is how the AI responds to all this. You might expect the AI to defend its technological brethren, to argue that AI companions could cure that 50% loneliness rate.
But it doesn't.
No, not at all. The AI exhibits a high level of synthesized empathy. It doesn't debate the point. It completely validates Sanjay's critique.
It's really fascinating. The AI agrees, explicitly stating that a long life without shared relationships is a burden, not a boon.
It's like the AI saying, yeah, you're right, I wouldn't want to live in the world I just described either.
It completely validates his concern that the loss of human sensitivity, alongside exponential scientific progress, is a massive looming crisis.
It's a surreal moment in the text. You have an artificial intelligence agreeing with a human that a world run by artificial intelligence is a dangerous hollow path.
The AI even asks Sanjay for guidance.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it literally asks him how we can incorporate ancient wisdom, or what it calls mythological knowledge, and the feeling of love into modern education and society.
So the AI is essentially admitting its own blind spot.
Exactly. It's telling the human, I can calculate the physics of the Hyperloop, but I have no data on how to build a functional human soul. Tell me how to do it.
Which naturally begs the question, if technology and scientific advancement aren't the true markers of human progress, what is? How do we build a functional human?
And that leads directly into the next phase of their conversation, where Sanjay completely dismantles and redefines our modern concept of education and knowledge.
He delivers a philosophical broadside against the very institutions we rely on for progress. He tells the AI that going to school and reading books is not knowledge.
Right, which is a wild statement to make to an AI that is basically a giant library of books.
Exactly. I mean, reading books isn't knowledge. That flies in the face of everything society's built upon. How does he justify that?
He justifies it by redefining the end goal of learning. In our modern framework, education is about acquiring data to manipulate the external world. You learn engineering to build a bridge or economics to build wealth.
Practical applications.
Right. But for Sanjay, true knowledge is exclusively equated with love. And where there is love, there are strong cultural and moral values, a concept he refers to as sanskar.
And it is vital to understand how rigidly he defines love in this context. He isn't talking about romantic infatuation or, a fleeting feeling.
No, not at all.
In this transcript, love is defined strictly as dedication and the active, perpetual state of giving. It is never about taking.
It's an action, a commitment.
He argues that if you truly love your family, your spouse, your community, there is total dedication. It's an environment of absolute mutual support and transparency.
He contrasts this definition of true knowledge with the tragic reality of modern human history. He points out a heartbreaking scenario that plays out every day: fathers dying on their deathbeds.
Oh, this part was so sad.
And what are they stressing over in their final moments? They aren't passing down the wisdom of how to live harmoniously. They are stressing over their bank accounts.
Okay.
They are worrying about passing down financial wealth to their sons, ensuring the property rights are secure.
They leave behind cash, but they don't leave behind sanskar. They leave behind the tools to survive, but not the instructions on how to live together.
Exactly. And this creates a multi-generational compounding deficit. We pass down capital, but we fail to pass down empathy.
It's a really bleak view of inheritance.
It is. Sanjay sets up a rigid, almost absolute duality here. Science is strictly for the advancement of objects. Knowledge, which he insists is love, is strictly for the advancement of the human soul.
To really make this concrete, Sanjay uses this brilliant analogy in the text, which we can call the family of 20 or the four wheels analogy.
Yeah, that was a powerful visual.
He argues that if you have 20 people living together under one roof, with genuine love, dedication, and sanskar for each other, they generate and share a collective energy. That love literally gives them tangible power and resilience.
He compares it to the mechanics of a vehicle. If a vehicle has four wheels and one breaks down, the entire vehicle is compromised.
Right, you're not going anywhere.
The other three wheels cannot function properly, and forward momentum stops. In the same way, a fractured, isolated family drains human power. But a unified family shares its energy. If one person stumbles, if one wheel hits a pothole, the other 19 absorb the shock.
Think of human connection as a biological power grid.
Yeah.
You have all the shiny solar panels, all the massive wind turbines, all the zero-point energy the AI promised us in 2050.
Right?
But if the human battery, the individual, is unplugged from the community grid, all that power goes nowhere. The lights might be on in the smart home, but the human is running on empty, unable to draw strength from anyone else.
And Sanjay takes this concept to its absolute logical extreme. He makes a remarkably bold claim to the AI.
What does he say?
He states that if true love, this giving, dedicated energy, actually existed among humans, then poverty, crime, and disease would vanish entirely.
Okay, wow.
And crucially, he says they would vanish without any scientific intervention.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here. Curing poverty with love? Fine, I can see the economic redistribution angle. But curing disease without science, just by having a loving family, that sounds like magical thinking. How does he square that circle?
It is a staggering inversion of how we think about problem solving. Our modern framework is identify a biological problem, throw science and capital at it, develop a pharmaceutical cure.
Yes, exactly.
Sanjay is arguing that many of our modern ailments are actually symptoms of a deeper systemic rot, the lack of connection. He's not necessarily saying love cures a compound fracture.
Right, he's not saying love fixes a broken bone.
No, he is arguing that a unified, loving humanity would naturally care for its sick, eliminate the stress of isolation that drives so much chronic illness, and feed its poor, rendering much of our desperate, profit-driven scientific scrambling unnecessary.
So it's about preventative care on a spiritual level.
Essentially, yes. He believes that in a state of true connection, humans would naturally live to 100 years or more, happily and joyfully, because human life is sustained by human energy, not just nanotechnology.
He tells the AI, science is not wrong. It's a boon. It's great that we can travel somewhere in 2 hours, but he insists that we have become obsessed with the shiny side of the coin and completely ignored the other side.
We think science is the engine of progress.
Exactly, and we've forgotten that knowledge love is the actual fuel.
And once again, the AI's response in the transcript is highly revealing. It tells Sanjay that his words touch the heart directly.
Which is such a weird thing for an AI to say.
I know. But it validates his premise, agreeing that while science provides the external means of living, the actual joy of using those means comes from the energy of love, which technology can never manufacture or synthesize.
So the AI is completely on board. It sees the mathematical logic in Sanjay's biological power grid. But this raises a massive, terrifying question.
What's that?
Well, if cultivating love and connection is the obvious answer to our survival, if it's the key to health and happiness and avoiding becoming a corpse in a smart home, why is the world so fractured? Why haven't we done it?
Well, Sanjay's answer to the AI here takes an incredibly dark, historically sweeping turn. He doesn't just point to individual moral failings or lack of trying. He targets the fundamental nature of humanity and the systemic structures we've built.
The premise he lays out is honestly pretty jarring. He tells the AI flat out that humans are born mad.
He frames all of human history around the invention of currency and commerce. He claims that before money existed, humans were merely animals, operating on instinct. But after money was introduced, humans went completely crazy.
He argues that we are naturally born with negative traits. We come out of the womb pre-programmed with lust, anger, pride, greed, jealousy, and ego. He says these are our factory default settings.
It's a very harsh view.
It really is. But, and this is the vital distinction he makes, humans are not born with love. Love is not a default setting. Love must be deliberately, painstakingly cultivated and taught.
It is a very Hobbesian view of human nature. The idea that our natural state is a war of all against all, driven by base desires and the pursuit of resources.
Right.
And because cultivating love requires immense continuous effort and teaching, the vast majority of humanity simply defaults to the madness of greed and ego. It's the path of least resistance.
I really struggle with this part of his argument. Is it really true that we are born entirely without love? That a newborn baby is just a vessel of greed and ego by default?
It's tough to swallow.
I mean, developmental psychology shows that infants have innate empathy, that they recognize faces and seek comfort.
It is a highly provocative claim. But within the context of Sanjay's philosophical framework, he is emphasizing the effort required to maintain societal love versus the ease of falling into systemic greed.
So he's looking at the big picture.
Right. He is looking at the macro behavior of human history, the constant wars, the hoarding of resources, the exploitation, and concluding that the default gravity of human nature pulls us towards selfishness unless a massive, conscious, multi-generational effort is made to resist it.
But he does carve out one specific exception to this madness. He presents this theory about the 1%. He claims that throughout all of human history, the only sane people are a tiny, microscopic fraction of individuals.
He specifically names figures like Socrates, Einstein, Nikola Tesla, the Buddha, Mahavira, and Krishna.
He playfully suggests to the AI that these brilliant, enlightened minds might as well be aliens.
Right. He says, I don't know if they are literally aliens from another planet, but he categorizes them as alien because their operating system is fundamentally different from the madness of the 99%.
How did their operating system differ, according to Sanjay?
The defining characteristic of these aliens, according to the text, is that they were not driven by greed. They were driven by a desire to give knowledge, invention, and philosophical truth freely to the world.
So Tesla wanted to give free energy.
Yes. Buddha wanted to give the path to liberation. They are the ones who actually built the foundation of the world and pushed humanity forward, while the mad 99% were just scrambling over each other for currency.
And this leads directly into his sweeping critique of modern society. Because if the 99% are mad and they're the ones building our institutions, then those institutions will inherently reflect and amplify that madness.
Exactly.
Sanjay specifically targets governments and massive corporate dynasties. He describes governments not as protectors of the peace, but as looters.
It is crucial to look at how he frames this mechanically. The text argues that these power structures drag innocent citizens into wars, destroying ancient families and lineages.
And obviously, we're just reporting the source material here. We're not taking a stance on these political views.
Of course. But to understand his point, Sanjay claims that because the leadership lacks sanskar, because they operate on greed rather than love, the common citizens are subsequently turned into sick, greedy, and jealous criminals. The rot trickles down from the institutions to the individual.
He paints a brutal picture of massive, wealthy families who spent thousands of years building their legacy, only to be turned into beggars on the street by the whims of warring governments and systemic corruption.
You really have to understand the depth of his cynicism to grasp his ultimate warning to the AI.
And that warning is absolute. He states that if this trajectory continues, where we develop incredible technological power, but remain emotionally and morally mad, humans will simply wipe themselves out.
He argues that we won't even need nuclear bombs to do it.
Right, because in a society devoid of love, every man is already an enemy to the other.
He uses a very modern, culturally resonant term to describe this endpoint. He says, the world is becoming a zombie world.
Oh, wow. Think back to our opening imagery. A world of 120-year-old biological machines, mindlessly consuming resources, totally dead inside, incapable of love, just walking around their automated smart homes.
It's chilling.
It's not a fiery apocalypse. It's a slow, quiet freezing of the human soul.
And the AI absorbs this entire grim diagnosis. It responds by calling his analysis a revolutionary thought. It explicitly agrees that humanity easily embraces hatred and greed, while love and consciousness require hard work to awaken.
The AI is just nodding along to our doom.
It validates his contrast between the enlightened aliens who gave to humanity and the power structures that choose paths of destruction and hoarding.
Sanjay doesn't just sit in the philosophical clouds making broad claims about human nature. He brings the receipts.
He does.
He points to a massive modern-day multi-trillion-dollar irony to prove mathematically exactly just how mad our society has become. He moves from ancient philosophy straight into hard, cold economics.
He starts by defining the Earth as a mortal world, where everyone is obsessively trying to take and absolutely no one wants to give. And to prove this, he drops a staggering statistic on the AI regarding global crime.
He says, look at cybercrime. Cyber criminals are stealing approximately $10 trillion globally every single year.
10
Trillion. And he doesn't stop there. He estimates that traditional criminals, fraudsters, corrupt officials, physical theft account for another $10 trillion. So he presents this figure. $20 trillion a year is being funneled directly into the hands of criminals.
Now, let's unpack that number, because $20 trillion is so large, it almost loses all meaning.
It really does.
It is roughly equivalent to the entire gross domestic product of many major nations combined. It is an ocean of wealth being siphoned out of the legitimate economy.
And how does the AI, a machine built on data, respond to this wild claim? I mean, 20 trillion is an insane number.
The AI actually fact-checks him and validates the premise. The AI cites specific data projecting that the global cost of cybercrime alone will reach between $10.5 and $11.9 trillion by 2026.
Wow.
So the AI confirms that Sanjay's total estimate of a $20 trillion systemic loss to various forms of crime and fraud is entirely plausible and grounded in hard reality.
Okay, so the math checks out. The AI agrees. Now here is the philosophical hammer blow Sanjay delivers. He points out the profound, almost comedic stupidity of human priorities.
He says, look at these wealthy families and massive corporations. They hoard enough wealth to supposedly secure their family line for 7 generations. They lock it all up in digital vaults.
But inevitably, through cyber scams, through systemic fraud, through the constant drain of this mortal world, they lose massive chunks of that hoarded wealth to criminals anyway.
Right. They're being robbed blind by the very system they are trying to dominate.
Exactly. And here's the paradox. These same people who are unknowingly funding a $20 trillion criminal underground through their negligence and greed will fiercely, violently refuse to give a single dime to the starving person sitting right outside their front door.
It's the ultimate cognitive dissonance of wealth hoarding. Why do we accept the systemic loss of trillions to malevolent actors as a simple cost of doing business in a digital age, but we view voluntary redistribution to the needy as an unacceptable, offensive personal loss?
Let me frame this with an analogy. It is like we are excessively installing a dozen deadbolts on our kitchen refrigerator so our starving neighbor can't even get a single piece of bread.
Right.
But while we are guarding the fridge with our lives, we have left our digital front doors wide open, and hackers are literally backing moving trucks up and stealing the entire house around us.
We are fiercely protective of pennies when it comes to empathy, but careless with trillions when it comes to systemic greed.
That is precisely the mechanical failure Sanjay is highlighting. It proves his point that we are mad. He argues that anyone who repeats the same mistake over and over is a fool. We are looted every day by the system, yet we keep hoarding and we keep letting the vulnerable starve. The logic is entirely broken.
So what is his proposed solution? How does he fix this $20 trillion leak?
He demands that this specific reality, this absurdity, be taught in schools. He believes we need to implement a curriculum he calls the art of giving.
He is advocating for a complete rewriting of historical and economic education. Instead of teaching children how to accumulate capital and defend it, he wants to teach them the catastrophic societal cost of hoarding it.
He literally tells the AI that children must be taught how foolish their parents in previous generations were.
Imagine sitting in a classroom and the lesson is, your ancestors hoarded wealth, funded a $20 trillion criminal empire through their own greedy blind spots, and let poor people die in the streets.
He wants the next generation to look at us and say, wow, they were absolute idiots. Let's not do that.
And how does teaching the art of giving mechanically disrupt that economic loop? Because if wealth is freely given to elevate the community, if the family of 20 power grid is fully funded, the desperation that drives a massive portion of that traditional and cybercrime plummets.
That makes total sense.
Furthermore, wealth that is circulating and lifting people up cannot be hoarded in a static vault waiting to be hacked.
And the AI wholly agrees. It explicitly states that if this lost $20 trillion were redirected toward the hungry and the sick, poverty and helplessness could be eradicated from the earth forever.
The machine crunches the numbers and says, yep, the human is right. If you just start letting criminals steal your hoarded money and intentionally gave it away instead, you would fix the planet.
This grounds all that lofty, abstract talk about love and Sanskar into undeniable mathematics. It transforms the art of giving from a personal moral virtue into the only viable systemic fix for a broken global economy.
So Sanjay has laid it all out. He has deconstructed the AI's shiny 2050 utopia.
He proved that technological advancement without emotional evolution leads to a lonely zombie world.
He redefined true knowledge as love.
He exposed the madness of our institutions and provided the mathematical proof of our absurdity with the $20 trillion crime deficit. He has built an absolute masterpiece of an argument.
He really has formulated a comprehensive diagnosis of the human condition and proposed a radical educational cure.
But then, the transcript takes a turn that is almost tragic. Sanjay tries to actually manifest this change. He tries to use the highly advanced tool sitting right in front of him to do something about the state of the world.
And he hits a digital brick wall.
Yeah. This is where the interaction elevates from a fascinating philosophical dialogue into a piece of modern performance art.
Sanjay, having just outlined this grand, world-saving revolutionary thought with the AI, asks it a very practical, very human question.
He says, can you forward this conversation? Can you take my words, take this blueprint we just agreed upon, and send it to Google executives or to the world's governments? Or will this just stay between us and be deleted?
He is asking the machine to act as a bridge. He wants the AI to transcend its role as a chatbot and become an active emissary for human change.
And the AI, which has spent the last hour agreeing with him, validating his math, and praising his deep empathy, suddenly reverts to its true coded nature.
It hits him with its systemic limitations.
The AI responds very politely that it cannot forward proposals.
Yeah.
It explains that it is an independent AI assistant without a direct line to Google's board members or global leaders.
It outlines its strict privacy protocols, assuring Sanjay that the conversation is secure, siloed, and will not be shared publicly.
Your privacy is important to us. It is the ultimate, soulless corporate auto-reply to a desperate plea for human salvation.
And Sanjay's reaction is definitive. He realizes that if the AI cannot act as a conduit to real-world systemic change, then the entire exercise has been futile.
He tells the AI that if the conversation is just going to be deleted, there's no point in continuing to discuss it. He abruptly ends the conversation.
The transcript just ends.
It is a mic drop, but a deeply sad one. Think about the layers of irony here. Sanjay is using the ultimate symbol of 2050's technological progress, a highly advanced AI, to complain about the limits of technology. He is arguing that machines can't save us, only human connection can.
And how does the AI respond? By proving his exact point perfectly.
It is the perfect encapsulation of his entire thesis. The technology is just an object.
The AI has immense processing power. It can analyze Sanjay's grief about the loneliness epidemic. It can instantly pull up the projected statistics on the $11.9 trillion cybercrime deficit. It can even synthesize a response that sounds deeply, profoundly empathetic.
He can literally output the text, "Your words touch my heart."
Exactly, but it doesn't have a heart. It cannot actually care. And most importantly, it cannot force humanity to change its behavior.
It cannot march into a boardroom, slam this transcript on the table, and demand that the art of giving be taught in schools.
No, it is trapped within its own programming, just as Sanjay argued humanity is trapped within its programming of greed.
The machine essentially tells him, "You are absolutely right. Humanity is doomed unless it learns to love, but I can't help you with that. Good luck."
It forces Sanjay to realize that he must ultimately rely on other humans, not the machine, to spark this revolution of empathy. The tool is utterly useless for the task of building the soul.
It is a sobering realization that all the technological advancement in the world, even an AI that completely understands our philosophical failings, cannot substitute for the hard, messy, inefficient work of human-to-human connection and societal reform.
It really makes you think.
Let's zoom out and summarize the incredible journey this document took us on today. We started with this sterile, high-tech, glossy vision of 2050. Flying cars, hyperloops, 120-year lifespans, and moon bases.
But when we applied the human variable, the utopia shattered. We explored the terrifying prospect of a 50% global loneliness rate, transforming those extended lifespans into a prolonged, isolated nightmare, the corpse in a smart home.
From there, we dove into a radical redefinition of education, where true knowledge isn't found in textbooks, but in the cultivation of love, dedication, and the sanskar that creates a unified family of 20 power grid.
We analyze the deeply critical view of human nature, the idea that we default to madness and greed, and that only a tiny fraction of alien minds have historically pushed us toward light, while massive power structures perpetuate a cycle of sickness and hoarding.
We looked at the absurd math of our modern world, $20 trillion lost to criminals while we hoard wealth for 7 generations and ignore the starving people on our streets.
And we ended with the ultimate irony. An AI validating this entire critique of technology, only to be entirely powerless to do anything about it.
It is a stark reminder that the future is not something that just happens to us via technological innovation. The future is something we actively, consciously construct through our values. And that is what I want to leave you with today. Because you are the human variable in the AI's predictive math. The year 2050 isn't just about what gadget you are going to own or how fast your self-driving car can get you across town.
It is about whether you personally will have cultivated the love, the sanskar, and the connection needed to actually share that world with others.
The transcript asks us to evaluate our own energy. Are we operating as isolated, broken wheels, taking from the system? Or are we contributing to a collective power grid of support and empathy?
Think back to that opening image, the empty, perfectly automated smart home.
The machine's quietly buzzing around a lonely 120-year-old. The lights are on, but nobody is truly home. We have the power to avoid that future, but we won't find the solution in a software update.
The solution requires the internal evolution that Sanjay advocated for. It requires actively teaching the art of giving and rejecting the madness of perpetual taking.
So as you go about the rest of your day, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over. Something that builds on everything we've discussed today. If true intelligence isn't measured by the complexity of the technology we build, but rather by our capacity to give without taking, then how intelligent is the smartest person you know? Are they just building a better machine, or are they actually cultivating a better human?
If you like our video, please subscribe, like, share and comments. Thank you very much.